You might know this guy. He is a 3-time World Series champion. He's an Oakland A's Hall of Famer. He's done everything in this game. General manager, assistant general manager, pitching coach, you name it. Soon to be owner in this game. An incredible baseball life. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. How about you?
Doing well. Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
How is, by the way, everything going with your project with Nashville?
Unfortunately, when the A's made the announcement that they were going to Vegas, things started to really speed up in Nashville. You're hearing a little bit more about it out of the commissioner's office now, surfacing more to be, the top team for expansion. We've been working on this, Tony, for 4 years, actually going on 5 years there, developing the brand, the name, the Nashville Stars, and forming our partnerships. And over the last 2 years, I've been doing a lot of meetings at the commissioner's office, learning the do's and the don'ts and how we can make this process smoother for the commissioner's office as well as for our organization. And I think that things are going as well as they could possibly be this early on in the game. And, now we just have to wait and see what happens with Tampa. Quite frankly, it seems like we still have to see what happens with the A's.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then,
no doubt.
And then we can figure out where we go from there. But right now, I'm very optimistic about our opportunity to be an expansion team and the team be named the Nashville Stars.
You're one of the few humans to ever play, front office, coach, be an agent, and now look at ownership. It's like you've now truly, it's hard to see the entire game like that. Most people, it just doesn't work that way. Now that you're really seeing the ownership side, I know at one point you had a team together, you guys were trying to buy the Marlins, but you've now seen it from every single side. What is it like to look into baseball as Dave Stewart now when you've seen it from every facet?
I think that, everything works for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. When I started out as a player, I just wanted to play baseball one day at a time and turn one day into a year and turn 1 year into another year. And eventually that turned into 16 years. Then after that, thank goodness I had a relationship with Walter Haas and Sandy Alderson. I had an opportunity to go from the player to an executive and learn from that side. And, becoming a player agent and eventually becoming a general manager and looking at the real sport from the inside put me in a position that eventually I wanted to be an owner. And so, I just want to be able to continue to be involved in baseball. But I think I have an idea. I mean, we're talking about 51% black ownership. We're focused on the diverse equity and inclusion. And so that means that we, in my belief, will present something in baseball that has never happened. We'll have decision makers in our offices that represent every nationality of people and every race and every color. And I believe that the way you make great decisions is by having well-rounded input, and that's the design for the Nashville Stars.
Yeah, historic, no doubt about it when it happens. And I just think that when Sandy Koufax was teaching you that forkball, you weren't thinking about being an owner and making history and doing all of this back then?
Probably if I'd have been thinking about it then, I wouldn't have made it as far as I did in the game. It's just been step by step. You take your first step, and then you look at the next step. And, the opportunity in Arizona, thank goodness for Tony La Russa at that time. When I left there, I knew at that time that I could put together a baseball team and put together at least baseball operations because that was my job. And now, I want to look past that and see if I have it in me to put together an entire organization. And that's my challenge, and I look forward to it.
All right, let's put you have so many hats that you've worn. That's why it's fascinating to have you on the program. Let's put the GM/pitching coach hat on, because they finally did it today on MLB Network, where they really delved into a thing that we've been talking a lot about, going how we're dealing with pitching. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. Having starters come out and throw like closers right out of the gate, we have just seen the rash of injuries. They can't go as much. They can't throw as many innings. Then it affects your bullpen. It makes your bullpen throw more innings. And you would think, like, we're going to pitch them less. We're going to have more pitches. That should keep them healthy, right? No, it's not.
It doesn't.
What do we do, or how do we change? We're so addicted to velocity, but the problem is the human body, these guys' bodies can't take it.
Well, velocity is good. I mean, we were always taught in the Dodgers organization, and I'll always say this. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Jim Hill last night doing an interview for KTLA.
Yeah, legend.
Yeah, and when I was talking to Jim, what I will always say is that fundamentally, the Dodger brand of baseball in my period of time, there was no better way to learn to play the game. Tommy Lasorda, the Dodgers organization, felt that 800 innings were the amount of innings that would qualify you to be ready to pitch in the major leagues. And so the answer in some cases may be less pitches, depending on the body and the physical makeup of a pitcher. But I believe that to be successful in this game, you have to learn all aspects of the game, and velocity plays at a certain time. If you have an opportunity to strike somebody out, you go for the strikeout. But I never threw a four-seam fastball after the sixth inning. And the purpose for that is because you want to complete games. You want to get deep in the game. And so you pitch for contact. You pitch for soft contact. Command of your fastball, both sides of the plate. Pitching on the plate and pitching off the plate inside. Pitching on the plate and pitching off the plate away. Utilizing the top of the zone. You see very little of that in this day and time. And so the art of pitching has actually left the game more for throw as hard as you can for as long as you can. And that here lately is equaling 4 or 5 innings, and it's killing your bullpens. And so the game has to revert back to teaching the art of pitching, teaching players, pitchers, how to think in situations, what you should be pitching for in situations, executing pitches versus throwing pitches, pitching for the outside part of the plate. What I liked about the kid last night that pitched for us last night in his second start in the big
Luis
leagues,
Medina, yeah,
is that he displayed an art of pitching. This is a high velocity kid. Now, I don't know where that came from. I saw him in spring training. And if you ask me in spring training, I say this kid is a thrower. But last night he was able to get through 6 innings because he mixed his pitches up. He had low strikeouts. He didn't have a bunch of strikeouts, which he has the stuff to do that. But he pitched 6 full innings. In my opinion, he gave up 3 runs. But I thought it was a quality start for him. But the key to it is moving the ball around, changing speeds. That's what pitching is, and that art has been lost in baseball.
Yeah, we have interns here that were born in 2000. We need to explain. When you start the game and you finish the game as a pitcher, it's called a complete game. You can look it up on Google. You can see it. He was talking about a complete, because these kids, they have no idea. I mean, when you said pitching after the 6th inning, they went, what? What is that allowed? Yes, pitchers can do that. By the way, only 5 complete games so far this season for Major League Baseball. Of course, the A's last year didn't even have one. That is tough. I wanted to get your mindset. When I looked at the numbers today, we know the A's bullpen, we know the A's starting staff, it's been a struggle. The A's are last in ERA. They've given up the most home runs as a staff. They've given up the most walks. Their bullpen has led the world in walks. To me, that there's the physical part and there's the mindset. If we brought you in, pitching coach Dave Stewart, and say, can't give up all these home runs, you can't be walking all these guys, it's a recipe for disaster. How would you change something as we're kind of into the 3rd of the season? What would you do?
Well, it really just reverts back to, what I just originally said. You can't be worried about strikeouts. You have to be worried about getting out. That's the art of the game. The art of the game is getting out. Strikeouts are a product of getting a guy deep into a count. If you get a guy 0-2, 1-2, then a strikeout is probably inevitable, and you should make an attempt to do that. But when you get to 2-2, which has always been taught to me, now what's important is to get outs, not waste your time with a lot of pitches. I think also that a pitching staff and has to take on the identity of the guy that's leading it. I witnessed that with the San Diego Padres in 1998. I was a guy that pounded strike zone hard on the inside part of the plate, and I demanded that from my pitchers. And if you weren't capable of doing that, then I'm going to get guys here that can do it. But at the same time, this is a different staff. They're a young staff. They haven't had a lot of minor league innings. And so you're going to have to be a teacher here at the big league level while these guys are learning to pitch at the big league level. It's multitasking at this point for the pitching coach here, Emo. But these guys at this level, when you compete on the outside part of the plate the majority of the time, it's going to be a tough task to get hitters out. You have to be hard on the inside part of the plate. Sandy Koufax, once again, you hear me say his name 1,000 times, said, Stu, always pitch to the short side of the bat. And that's how I learned to pitch. Pitching on the inside part of the plate, not giving these big hitters a chance to get their arms out.
Get the barrel out there.
Make them afraid, because hitters would much rather hit on the fat than to break a bat. That's for sure. And so at this point with this young staff, you're going to have to put on your professor's hat. You're going to have to do classrooms. They're getting out here early anyway. So instead of spending time in the food room, let's spend time in the room with the chalkboard, and let's learn how to do your job. And it's never too late for that. These guys haven't had that opportunity. They haven't been able to master it to this point. The ERA shows it. What they're doing in the league shows it. And so you bring them back to the drawing board, and you have lessons with them. Talk to them about counts. Talk to them about what to recognize in a hitter's swing. Teach them everything that they need to know to help them be successful. But I think the most important part of pitching is putting fear in a hitter. And the only way you do that is by pitching inside.
Man, you take that cap like you did and you put it down and you have that stare.
Yep.
You knew what you were doing back then.
You know what? I learned what I was doing. I didn't know it right away. I learned it.
That is true, too. It's like we always think of you, look how many years he won 20 games. It took you a while to be that guy.
It did.
You had to take your lumps.
You did. I did have to take my lumps. I did have to learn my lessons. But, while you're learning your lessons, learn your lessons. And what I mean by that is, while you're out there and you're making mistakes, try to remember the mistakes that you made so that your next start, you're in between, when you're doing your bullpen work, you can work on those things and you make those things better. If you're out there and you make mistakes and the next game you go out and you make another mistake, you make the same mistake and you continuously make the same mistakes, then you're not growing. And you're not going to last in this league if you're not growing.
As a guy that grew up right around the corner from this place, a guy who starred here, was a world champion here, you were an all-star here, and then now to come back and to do television and to still walk around. I mean, it's one thing when you go to the studio. What's it like for you retiring your jersey? That was so special last year. You're an A's Hall of Famer. You're an Oakland kid. When you walk around and the fans and they yell Stu, and what is that like?
It's a reminder to me that, when I met Roy Campanella and Don Newcomb coming into the Dodgers organization in 1975, and
Vero Beach, Florida.
Vero Beach, and spending time with Davey Lopes and Bert Hooton and Reggie Smith and Dusty Baker, and then later on having an opportunity to meet Hank Aaron and Bob Gibson and Sandy. Obviously, I can never forget him. But when those types of things happen here for me at this ballpark, for that matter, when I'm walking down the street, it means that I did exactly what those guys did for me. They paid it forward to me, and they told me to respect the game. And if you respect the game, you'll always be rewarded. And I'm 66 years old, and it still happens for me here at this ballpark. My number is hanging up on the rafters up there.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's an unreal feeling when you're driving along the freeway and you look over and you see that hanging up there. It's just unreal. And I appreciate the guys before me who groomed me for this moment in my life.
Well, support Dave Stewart also from a standpoint. People can pick up merch for the Nashville Stars. Is that correct?
Let's
sell some merch here on A's
That's
Cast
right.
Live.
That's right. If I could say it, MusicCityBaseball.com.
Help the guy out. Get a little merch going
MLB Music City.
Well, I'll see you a little bit later on A's Pregame Live.
Pre and post, my man.
This is an A's legend, an Oakland legend right here. I hope someday, after you get everything with Nashville done, that they'll truly do a documentary on your life, a baseball life, because you've done everything.
Yeah, you know me, Tony. I'll probably shy away from that. But, my good friend just passed away. And if, when my time comes, if people remember me in that way, then that'll be good for me.
Yeah, we thank you for coming on when Vida passed. That meant a lot to a lot of A's fans.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you in just a little bit.